He won't bully anyone ever again. Warning. Some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share 3 juicy r/nuclear revenge stories from Reddit. In my school, during the time I was there was a lot of social stigma with being a homosexual within a school environment. No one ever came out publicly due to the amount of bullying that would follow, so it was a closed shop. I'm personally straight, a victim of bullying for reasons that aren't related to my sexuality, but a victim of bullying nonetheless. I knew I wasn't able to really stop this on my own, so I just moved on and tried to make their lives better through things like programming clubs. I'm well versed in my knowledge of programming languages. During my 3rd year there, I remember there was a particular little a-hole whom I will brand butthole for this story, and he was relentless. His parents were strict Christians, but not in the sense of love and peace, more like hate and repent for things out of your control. They would let him get away with bullying the LGBTQ kids due to the fact that those fags deserve it for going against God. The school would try everything to prevent him, and in their defense they did suspend him for a few days, but after the poop storm his parents kicked up for this incident he was acquitted almost every single time after this. One particular incident caught my eye, when he cornered a kid who was rumored to be gay without having even been confirmed, and beat the hell out of him, calling him a faggot and telling him to repent, more so sarcastically, not in a serious sense. I don't remember the details of the case, but I'm fairly certain nothing came about of it, due to the lack of evidence, but the victim was scarred. I know this because he attempted to swallow a bottle of pills due to his desperation to escape the pain. Frankly, I'd had enough. I began to work on a particular program which was my first rat, allowing me to transfer files between computers, as well as run commands in admin on their PCs. This was in the before times before people were big on safety, which essentially gave me full control. I sent them these rats in various forms through disposable emails so they'd have no idea it was me. I then began my planning, downloading various files of gay pornography, not for personal use, and began to transfer it. I always made sure it was in places where they wouldn't ever look, Windows directory, sample videos, the usual, then waited. I remember it was a day when we were all in class together. I took out my laptop, sent a single command which was essentially a function to do one thing: open it all up. The greatest part about this exploit was that it also forced the sound to play through speakers as well as blasting it to full volume. Close-ups of the most depraved, poorly drawn, scat, water sports, yaoi. Once that was all open I just kept resending the command each time they closed it, making sure to only do it once no one could pinpoint it was being done automatically. Obviously the school informed his parents, and as strict Christmas, who remember, hate and repent, were absolutely furious. They disowned him, and the local Christian community exiled him from the church, refusing to allow him back in. Without his parents, he had to live with his equally, but more accepting and less wealthy, aunt and uncle who constantly berated him for being a gay despite his protests. It was rumored they signed him up for electroshock gay conversation therapy. At school, he felt the poop storm these kids felt as well, being called gay, beatings left and right. Due to this he didn't pass any of his exams and as such was stuck at a dead-end job for 2 years of his life. Due to the events in his life up until that point, he took up alcohol as a suppressant for the pain, and as such was swiftly fired from his job for his ethanol-induced escapades. I'm not very sure where he is now, but I know that wherever he goes, he won't. Number 2. So this story took place back when I was in Florida in the early 90s. It does involve an act of vandalism that is connected to revenge. South Florida was devastated by Hurricane Andrew. My dad as part of a local charity was set up day after day in a local market seeking donations from shoppers to give to food banks. You have to understand this storm left many people homeless and without power in some cases for 6+ months in Florida heat and humidity. My father was legally disabled from a serious car accident. He was hit by a drunker driver, in the early 80s and suffered from relentless hip and back problems. It never killed his heart of kindness to others, hence the charity work. One day, he was about to pull into disabled space at the local market to go buy a few items to donate to the hurricane charity. Right before he is about to pull in, this lady pulls into the space in this shiny red Porsche. My dad parks behind her and says, "Excuse me ma'am. I was about to pull in there," and also points to his disabled placard in the window. She says to him, "You don't look disabled," and proceeded to walk into the store. For anyone who has a relative who uses a disabled space, you know the frustration of this situation and the anger one feels. My dad, seemingly unfazed, waits. She goes into the store and then gets out and snips the valve stems on all 4 tires, flattening, but not destroying all of them. He then pulls into another space not far away and is shrieking about her car being vandalized. My dad is far enough away so she can't see him, but he can hear everything. She calls the police. Big mistake. She files a report for vandalism, and the police give her a ticket for being parked in the disabled space with no placard. About $250 at the time. The cops leave and she calls a tow truck. As the car is being loaded onto the truck, my dad pulls up and says to her, "You don't look disabled, but your car sure is." And then drives off. My dad could be a nice guy and pure savage when he needed to be. Number 3. Some backstory. When I was about 11 or 12 I started get hobbies which included rock collecting and ant farming, important later. I also started babysitting my brother at the time. So it was a normal Saturday that consisted of me babysitting my little brother and taking care of my ants. I let my brother play on my PS3 until the doorbell rang. I opened and saw these annoying little kids that always asked if I could play, but every time I would say no. Normally they would just leave, but this time they just sat there and just kept on ringing the doorbell. It went on for about 10 minutes until it stopped. I thought it was over until I heard them start giggling, then they started throwing rocks at my house. They even cracked one of the windows. I opened the door and they just knew it wasn't going to be good. Also at the time, I was probably about 5.9, so I was kinda scary. I walked outside and told them to go home or I'll call the police. Fast forward about 2 weeks, it happened 3 more times at this point. I was done playing around. I knew they were gonna do it again, so at the side of my house where they were getting the rocks I had accidentally spilled my fire ant uranium with probably about 1,500 to 2,000 fire ants on the rocks. So the next day comes around and the little brats were ringing my doorbell and I could almost taste the sweet revenge. After the ring stopped, I heard the thuds of the rocks hitting my house. All of a sudden it stopped and I could hear them start to cry. I looked out the window and the little boy was sitting right on the rocks. They all ran home. But it's not over. Their mom came out of the house and over to mine. I put on my saddest face and told the mom, "They broke my ant farm." After that the mom gave me $10 and I never saw them again. I'm almost starting to feel bad, but they shouldn't have messed with my rocks. A few weeks later, they started doing things like taking toys from my backyard, ringing our doorbell, and stealing our rocks. I told their parents but they just kept on doing it, even the fire ants. And this time I was so mad, I didn't hold back. I took my book bags and filled it with Legos, balls, dolls, etc. But that wasn't it. I had one of my subterranean termite farms and emptied it into the bag. I gently put my book bag in the grass and waited. I went to feed my brother for lunch and when I came back it was gone. Fast forward a couple of months and their house was on quarantine for a bug infestation. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.